hard to capture, extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifested. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my psyche.
Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, the manga. And for anime only fans, this is the time of the month where a lot of the content that you guys see on the channel is going to be spoiler heavy, so I thank you for your support. However, if you're still here, I'm assuming that you guys are all caught up with the Boruto manga and you do not care about me talking about spoilers. So with that being said, let's dive into today's topic. So after taking a closer look at the last chapter, one thing that really stood out is just the obvious tension that is growing between Kawaki and Sarada. I think a lot of people have rightfully so kind of zeroed in on that, and it's so ironic that Kawaki and Sarada are kind of getting into it when they're arguably the two people who look up to Naruto's Hokage the absolute most. And the reason why this is so heartbreaking is we know that inevitably Kawaki is going to have another clash and Kawaki is going to destroy the village in the future. However, this is what kind of grabbed my attention. So when you look at the parallel between what Kawaki and Sarada did and then what Naruto and Sasuke did when they were on top of the rooftop, that parallel is obviously there. The same thing when you look at how Boruto basically played the Kakashi role in that scenario. Well, the reason why I find that so interesting is if we take that approach and say that Ikimoto was going for a parallel of Naruto and Sasuke on the rooftop, that means that we have another fight coming, because that was just the prelude to the real fight where they could really cut loose. And I think that because Kawaki's being shown getting visibly angrier and Kawaki's starting to get more and more impatient, that eventually that switch is going to end up getting flipped. However, I think that we're in a situation where that switch isn't going to get flipped until we get to the time skip. And the reason why I say this is that's like a tabula rasa. We don't know necessarily what caused Kawaki to go crazy in the actual future. However, I think that it is safe to say that in that post time skip where Kawaki versus Boruto happens and the village has been destroyed and these two are fighting, I don't think any of us see a scenario to where Sarada just stands by idly and allows Kawaki to destroy the village. I don't think that that's going to happen. I really feel like she's going to be one of those characters that tries to stop him. And I think a good way to actually show how strong Kawaki is post time skip is to actually have him strike down Sarada, and this is where that would be so tragic in my opinion. So in a lot of ways these two characters are very similar in that both of them have alpha mentalities, both of them have a little bit of a stubborn streak, both of them have this huge infatuation with Naruto as Hokage. They look up to him, they treat Naruto like a beacon of light in a world surrounded by darkness. They definitely have that bond between them, but what you're seeing is essentially the same thing that you see if you watch pro wrestling long enough. You can start to kind of tell when they're starting to build up towards WrestleMania, and you can kind of predict what the actual WrestleMania matches are going to be. I really feel like they're starting to plant the seeds of a Kawaki and Sarada rivalry, and the way that that could actually work in my opinion is this gives you an opportunity, because we don't know what happens to Sarada and the time skip. We don't know whether or not Sarada is actually alive when Boruto and Kawaki's confrontation happens. And in fact, we don't know if anybody else is alive. More than likely they are, because Boruto isn't the type of series that has the balls to kill off a major character. However, what I suggest and what I think could actually work is a good compromise here. So instead of actually killing the character Sarada, which I mean I would be okay with as long as it's actually done properly and it's not a rush death like what you saw with Kurama, but I would be okay with the idea of Sarada dying at the hands of Kawaki. But if you want to stop short of that and you want to have it to where Sarada suffers a similar fate to a character in Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm not going to say the name of the character because I don't want to spoil, but just like a certain character in Jujutsu Kaisen that is literally at death's door and we don't know the fate of that character, it's implied that there's a very small slim chance that they can actually live. I think if you put Sarada in a situation like that and she overcomes it, I think that that adds a lot to the character's actual development and growth, because she's going to be one of the first people to try and stop Kawaki from crossing the line that he does. She wants to be the Hokage. She wants to be able to actually protect the village going forward in the future. And so to have her understand and really feel the weight that comes from seeing somebody that you're close to, seeing somebody that you have a little bit of a rivalry or a beef with, actually intent on destroying the village. You try and stop them and you fail, and then when you wake up out of your near-death state, you see how Konoha is just completely obliterated. I think that having that pain of loss, having that feeling of failure is something that's going to add a lot more layers to Sarada's character, because I think she understands the importance of the Hokage position. I think she understands what it means to protect the village. She saw firsthand how Naruto is willing to give his life to protect the village when Momoshiki attacked, but I think she also needs to understand the severity, the gravity of the situation when she herself fails to actually do so. And I think that because that Boruto versus Kawaki fight, in my opinion, isn't going to be the final fight, at least that version of what we see is not going to be the final fight, I think that you're in a situation where that's going to spur Sarada to actually begin training on a higher level right there. I definitely think that that is something that is essentially going to be a catalyst for Sarada reaching another peak. And I think that they're really, because of all this conflict and drama between Sarada and Kawaki, I really feel like this is going to be something that could be working for a longer term. Ultimately, Boruto's gonna be the one that has to make things right. But I think that Sarada and Kawaki, there's an arc right there. I really feel like there's a pretty half decent arc that's being set up with these two characters. You know, if Boruto versus Kawaki is gonna be that big WrestleMania type of event, which I don't think it's going to actually be, but if it is, if that's gonna be your main centerpiece, then I think that's a situation where you need to treat Sarada versus Kawaki like a SummerSlam type of a thing, where like SummerSlam is one of the biggest events that the WWE has going forward. I think you need to have something like that where Sarada versus Kawaki ends up being one hell of a battle that takes place before Boruto actually challenges Kawaki in the aftermath of that. I think that that is one way to actually really get some heat for the character of Kawaki, because if you're gonna have him do the one thing that Orochimaru can do, the one thing that Sasuke never got the chance to do, essentially have him be the only character besides Pain that is able to actually destroy Konoha, you have to have a proper build up for it. It cannot be something where this dude just randomly wakes up one morning and says, I'm gonna choose violence, and nobody makes an attempt to stop him and he just blows up the village. That can't happen. There has to be a proper build. There has to be some real conflict, some real physical conflict that happens before that. And because of what Sarada's dream is, and because of everything that the Uchiha clan has gone through, I can think of no character better than Sarada to actually be the one that attempts to stop him, because the Uchiha clan for the longest time was looked at with scorn and disdain, whether it be because Madara left the village or whether it be because of the Nine Tails attack, and the Kyuubi attack was basically blamed on the Uchiha clan. I think having an Uchiha who aspires to be the Hokage attempt to defend the village when Kawaki's in that situation, and she ends up being one of the ones that puts up one of the better fights against Kawaki, I think that that is definitely something that is a proper hype build-up for Boruto inevitably making Kawaki essentially tuck tail and run away after Boruto and Kawaki had that battle on the Hokage monument. I don't think that's going to be the final battle of the series. I think that that's just a flash forward point. We're building to it, and then once we get to it, they're going to ultimately take the story beyond that. However, I want to know from you guys, do you guys think this is a good idea? Is this a good way for Kawaki to get heat? Do you think that Sarada should also be left in a near-death state? Or do you think that she needs to essentially bite the bullet? Do you think that that's going too far? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.